What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we're going to be looking at CEI stock because there has been a disgusting picture that I've painted of the manipulation that's gone on with this stock. It is really horrific, and if you take a look at the chart, I will walk you guys through what I'm talking about. First of all, let me talk about the technicals just for a second to explain, why we're really trading where we're at. First of all, you can see that we had, before this massive pump up, been trading in this $1.40 to $1.80 range. That had been a clear and established level of support and resistance for this stock. It makes perfect sense that we have now returned to that level. That's what I've been saying we would likely do. You can see that there have been a couple of times that we've tried to break out of it, right? First, when we were on this massive downward spike after Carousel Capital released their short report. We moved down massively and ended up breaking through the $1.40 support level before returning to it and then trying to make a move to the upside before returning to this $1.40 to $1.80 level. Now, it's very likely that we'll continue trading here for a bit. Obviously, at some point people will try to break us out to one side or the other. We'll have to see which side that is, right? There's no telling. However, this stock has been very heavily manipulated. I have realized this over the past couple of days that I've been looking into it. And you can actually tell by looking at this chart right here on the short interest of CEI stock. And first of all, I will point out that obviously, shorts are doubling down on their positions today. They're pushing this thing down a bit, or at least trying to. But you can see that there has been a massive dump of their short shares, right? They got rid of their short shares. They covered their positions massively. And a lot of people would have thought that this would lead to a massive spike in the stock price. However, when you look at it, the current short interest as a percentage of the free float is only 8.67%. And that doesn't add up with what a lot of people had initially thought the short interest was, right? A lot of people thought that the short interest was much higher. Obviously, there is this large spike, but if you actually look, Ortex is saying that, the highest the short interest ever got was 23.92%. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people who haven't done their research because at one point, it was at least saying that there was over a 50% short interest on this stock. So what the heck happened to it? Why is it saying that the short interest is much lower? Well, that's because Ortex released a statement a couple of days ago saying CEI short interest update. CEI made an SEC Form 8K filing dated October 6th, which detailed an increase into the known shares outstanding of around 140%. Estimated short interest as a percentage of free float has therefore dropped significantly and is now 19.16%. So this was a while ago, back when it was trading around 19.61%, probably on October 6th, right here. And if you actually look at October 6th, when this report was released, you'll see that's this day right here, following the massive dump in share price. And you'll also see that it is right here before the massive dump of short shares. Now, if you look back at this tweet, they have a link to their SEC filing. And this is where I've really dug into and found some, inkling of potential manipulation in this stock, right? Because if you actually read the filing, it says, as of October 6th, 2021, Camber Energy had 249 million shares of common stock issued and outstanding. The increase in our outstanding shares of common stock from the date, blah, 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 is increased in authorized shares of common stock from 25 million shares to 250 million shares. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. It says, is primarily due to the conversion into common stock by an institutional investor of shares. So there we have it right there. Institutional investors have been converting their shares right after this massive dump in price, right after Carousel Capital coordinated this attack, this short attack on the stock, and was potentially digging themselves a massive hole, right? Because the short interest, if you look at CEI on Ortex, was originally around 50%, was very high when they coordinated this attack, and it likely took a lot more shorting to get that flow in shares started, right? They actually wanted to, be shorting this thing, pushing it down, to influence a lot of other traders, retail investors, and potentially institutions to be dropping shares and dumping them to dump the price even more so that they could actually end up covering. Now, because the next day, this institutional investor was able to acquire so many shares outstanding and then potentially, dump them as well. That really led to a beneficial situation for Carousel Capital and all the other institutions that were shorting this thing, because now, with a short interest of 8.67%, this thing does not look too threatening to get into a short squeeze situation, right? People are not that worried that this thing is going to short squeeze. If you actually look at the days to cover on loan, you'll see that it only takes about 0.32 days to cover all the short shares outstanding. So that's really not a long time. It's about a third of a day's worth of volume that it would take to cover all of the shorted shares. And that is because institutions have been able to massively dump their shares well, one institution is likely dumping their shares, and other institutions were able to cover their short positions. And that has been done mostly at a fairly equitable price, right? The institutional investor that converted all of those shares realized, likely, that this stock was bumping up a ton. If you looked over the past 90 days, you'd see that it had moved up massively, right? And this is a much higher price than that institution would likely have been able to get for its shares at any other point. Now, once Carousdale Capital ended up, shorting this thing to oblivion, that institution was then able to sell a bunch of its shares to Carousdale, likely, and to other institutions to cover their positions and get rid of its own shares, all while screwing out the retail investors who were buying up shares all the way up this mountain, buying up shares, pushing the price up, and basically just worked out that the institutions made bank on this deal, and the retail investors got completely screwed on it. So what's been happening with CEI now, and what do I expect to happen in the future? Well, there are a couple of indicators that we can look at now that we know just how massively this stock has been manipulated and what's happened with the shorts. I am no longer too expectant to see a short squeeze on this stock. There are some other potential catalysts that could drive it up. Obviously, it is a very popular stock. We'll talk about that in a minute. But there are still very many open interest call options. Now, obviously, it's going to take a lot of upwards momentum to get these call options to actually become in the money and to activate. You can look at the chart and see that we would have to get above $2, which is right around here. We'd have to get above 2, which has been tough for us in the past. In fact, if you look, let's look over the past 5 days. There has been only one instance where we've been able, or two instances where we've been able to get above $2, and only for very brief amounts of time, right? Mostly in pre-market. And then as soon as real trading started, as soon as the actual trading day started, we ended up just sinking and sinking and sinking, returning to this $1.80 to $1.40 range. So it's going to be very difficult, I think. We're going to require a lot of volume, a ton of momentum to actually get above $2, which is where all of these open interest call options really start to become in the money, right? At $2 at that strike price, there are 53,000 open interest call options. There are 30,000 at $3, 18,000 at $4, 14 at 5, and 12 at 6. So there are quite a few open interest call options. However, these are expiring on October 15th in just 2 days' time. So relatively soon, right? This Friday, these are all expiring. So it's really going to be up to retail investors to push this thing up if they want it to go up, above $2 before that date, to really get institutions to start having to buy back shares of this company to cover their call positions. Now, there is some potential for it, right? But if you actually look at this stock on Google Trends, you can see that search volume for it has been decreasing. That is somewhat bearish, right? We don't like to see decreasing search volume for the stock, and that has been happening, as it's kind of just consolidated in this zone, right? As people have seen that it's consolidated in the $1.40 to $1.80 zone, it's become less and less bullish on Google Trends. Fewer people have been searching for it. They've kind of realized that it's stagnated a bit. And, this is all on the back of institutions having manipulated it. You can see that on Reddit, the same kind of thing has happened. CEI is down at spot number 17. It's up 8 spots today, right? More people are talking about it today than yesterday, but it's still relatively low, right? We like to see stocks that are going to move to be in the top 10. We like to see, at least in the top 10. Down when you get to 17, you've already gotten to the point where you kind of have to scroll down a bit. It's just not discussed that much on Reddit. And you can see even on StockTwits, where CEI, I think, was ranking number 2 just yesterday. It's down to number 6 today. So fewer and fewer people are talking about this stock. It's not looking great for them over the next couple of days, right? Because we really, if we want to see a pump up in price, are going to need to see this thing get above $2. And it's just looking less and less likely as we stagnate in the $1.40 to $1.80 range. And I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it's going to be rather difficult, and that if we do want to see a big movement upwards, we're going to need to see a hold above $2. That's a very key level for this stock because of the open interest call options. 53,000 open interest call options is nothing to laugh at. It's quite a few. Especially if we could get some momentum going on this stock and start activating the other call options as well. There's 30,000 to $3. However, there's not much time for that to happen. There's only 2 more trading days after today. Thursday and Friday, we're going to have to see something happen with it if we want to see that kind of action with CEI. So that's what I had to talk about with CEI today. I just wanted to point out the blatant manipulation that's been going on with this stock, and kind of just enlighten you guys as to the fact that oftentimes institutions do work together. They try to screw out retail, And there's not much you can do in a situation like that because they have a ton of capital and they have a ton of analysts working for them and they have a lot of ability to manipulate stock price. So I'm just pointing that out for you guys, kind of giving you a real life live example that just happened a couple of days ago that you can use to kind of realize that. So other than that, guys, have a great day. Hope to see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Other than that, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.